Welcome to Deal Shredders.
We are your hosts, David and Greg.
We are local Nashville investors, cash buyers, and real estate agents who love to analyze your deals.
Hey, fellow listeners, thanks for tuning in. If you have not already, please check us out on Facebook, like us on Instagram, subscribe to our YouTube channel, or listen to us on Anchor or any other podcast means. We would love if you would leave us a review or some stars if you like what you hear. You listeners are what make our podcast grow, so please don't forget to tell your friends. This week on episode 6 of Deal Shredders, we talk with Tyler Cauble and how he underwrites all of his commercial deals and specifically his first commercial real estate syndication. Tune in.
We're live. Cool. All right. Did you put that on there? Yeah. I love it, dude. Yeah, me too. I'm proud of that. All right, guys. All right, everybody. Welcome to episode 6 of Deal Shredders. Got Mr. David Morgan hosting with me. And today we have the man himself, Mr. Tyler Cauble.
What's going on, guys?
Guys, so here's a little bit about Tyler. This gentleman is a college dropout who has, after that, he wanted to work at a boutique firm for about 4.5 years. He got out of that and started his own company, the Cauble Group. 2 years ago?
It was 2 years ago, yep. Cauble Group 2 years ago.
Awesome.
Cool.
He's been featured in Forbes for utilizing Instagram with commercial real estate. He has an Amazon best-selling book, The Insider's Guide to Leasing Commercial Real Estate, Nashville's Emerging Leader Awards, finalist 2 years in a row, top 30 under 30. This guy's not even 30 yet. And he's got last year, 2018, 2 years ago, he developed 42 townhomes in Bellevue. And his last year, he acquired 50,000 square feet of commercial space across 4 buildings. Tyler, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Dude, thanks so much for being here, man.
That's a legit little bio you got going on.
Man.
Oh, trying to add to it.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell us, so you've been in Nashville how long in the real estate game? Obviously, I know you said you started your 2 years ago.
That's right.
But before that, 4 years working for somebody else. Were you in real estate at all before that?
I was not. I was in college before that. So
okay.
I grew up in Nashville and dropped out, I think, right before I turned 21.
Was that a community college or was that like university?
No, University of Tennessee.
Okay, cool. You dropped out of UT. All right.
Well, yeah, I just got really bored. I mean, my fraternity got kicked off campus. UT football's UT's football program is terrible.
No way, is it?
Yeah, right.
Oh, my God.
That.
Oh, my God.
So, I'm just like, this is a cool experience. So I really enjoyed working, had done really well in sales part-time. So I decided, let's move home and make this thing.
Cool. So you moved to Nashville, started working for a boutique company.
Right.
Talk a little bit. Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
My bad.
No, you're good.
I was just going to ask you where you moved from.
Yeah, back from Knoxville. So I'm originally from Nashville, went to Knoxville for a couple years for college, and then came back here.
Got it.
Cool. So talk to me about that. You moved back to town, trying to figure out what's going on. When I was 21 years old, there's no way I'm thinking like real estate. I'm trying to figure out like what I'm doing on the weekends.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
So how does that conversation lead or that thought process lead into like, let me work doing real estate or commercial real estate of all? Because that's a whole totally different field.
Yeah. So honestly, I had never thought about it either. I didn't even know that commercial real estate was really a thing.
Okay.
Until I got into it, I didn't realize like, oh yeah, someone put this Chipotle here. Someone represented Chipotle, helped them lease this space. I actually grew up working in construction for my grandfather. He had a construction company.
Residential?
And, it was residential, yeah. So he did a ton of new construction as well as insurance work. So fire damage, water damage. And I grew up in the summer working for him. And when I moved back, said, you know what, I'm going to go take over the family business and started working as a project manager for him. Well, a boutique development firm here in town had heard that I was back. They knew what I had done in sales before. So I was at Cutco, which is the knife sales
company.
Yep. And back when I sold, I guess when I was 18, right when I graduated from high school, broke every record in the Eastern region I could get my hands on.
So you love sales.
I loved it. That's how I figured out I love sales. Yeah. So, went to college with $30,000 in my pocket. And,
which most people are spending $30,000 on their student loans.
That's right. So I thought it was a big campus.
Yeah.
I was buying trays of shots and we were having a great time. So yeah, I moved back, and that boutique development firm heard I was back, and they offered me a job. So they said, hey, look, we've got this portfolio of retail, office, and industrial, and some of it was up to 40% vacant, even though it was Class B, so it was really nice product. And they were just tired of having a big national firm represented because they didn't feel like they were getting the attention they wanted.
And they wanted customer service.
Yeah,
Exactly.
And somebody that knows a local market.
Exactly. And someone that would actually pay attention to their product. And so they paid for me to get my real estate license, gave me a portfolio of over 200,000 square feet to lease, and I got to work. So did that for
right place, right time.
Right place, right time. I mean, this was 6 years ago, so the market was very, very different from how it is now.
For sure.
Awesome.
Got started in 13, so yeah.
Cool. So like, what are your goals over the next couple of years? I mean,
yeah. So over the next couple of years, one thing that I've been working on since I started my own brokerage, that was the easiest first step into my 10-year plan. There was no overhead really, so started my own firm.
So are you a broker then?
I am a broker.
Nice.
Yep. Yeah, I'm 27, so I'm probably the youngest commercial real estate broker that owns their own brokerage in town.
Congrats.
Thank you. I certainly don't feel that way, but it's funny.
When you're a trailblazer, like, it never feels fun, but it's
right.
part of it. So
yeah, no, I love it. I love getting to wake up and do what I do every day. So started the brokerage. 6 months later, decided I wasn't busy enough, so I started a commercial property management company. And then a few months ago, I started a commercial construction company. So my whole plan is to, again, I started off at a boutique firm. I kind of want to have that boutique feel where, I can go find it, fund it, develop it, build it, lease it, manage it, and sell it ourselves. Keep everything in-house.
Now, do you have other agents in your brokerage?
I do. I've got 2 right now.
Okay. And
plus me.
cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. So a lot of people were asking when I told you you're going to be on the show, you're like the king of underwriting deals. Can you kind of like break that down? Like if you had a commercial or multifamily property, what do you look at, and like how does that work? How do you do that?
Absolutely. So we actually stay away from multifamily. We decided that about a year ago.
Is that after some bad experiences are not ideal, or was it just like, hey, there's so much competition there that we don't want to do that. We want to be a little bit more niche.
That's exactly what it was. It was, multifamily it's very similar to commercial. Like you have to specialize in brokeraging.
Eat, breathe, live, do this every day.
Exactly. I mean, that has to be what you do, or else you're not going to find the deals. And so we had a number of clients that were like, hey, we want to buy anywhere from 100 to 250 units. And we couldn't find deals that were worth. Exactly. Sure. I mean, we were finding plenty of deals, but cap rates have been so compressed in Nashville that it didn't make any sense.
You almost have to have someone do just the acquisition direct to seller for that specifically, because usually when you look for multifamily, you use other commercial brokers as your lead source. But I mean, if there's they're not the ones they're going to get the equity discount, not you. So you have to go out yourself. Okay, cool.
That's exactly it. So we just focus on commercial, but having the brokerage background and knowing what rents are helps me very quickly underwrite deals. So a little over a year ago, I guess this was almost 2 years ago, it was pretty much when I started my company, I started thinking, okay, well, it's time for me to start building a portfolio of my own properties. And so I just started studying everything that was on the market. And what I found was, okay, if I can find a building that is for sale at under $100 a foot, that makes it very easy for me to go, okay, well, I know that rents in this area are $23 a foot. But if the average operating expense on an office building is $7.50 a foot, that gives me a $15.50 net. Right. So, if you're looking at $15.50 a foot on a $100 investment, that's a pretty good return. And so that's how I would know. That's kind of the metric that I use immediately to go, this is worth my time looking into, or we're going to pass.
Right.
So, then from there, it's getting in there. And I've gone to a couple of CCIM classes. I'm currently working on my CCIM designation of how to underwrite these deals. I mean, it's quite a intensive process. But, we take everything into account from, vacancies, operating expenses. I'll go talk to a bank before we even get it under contract. We'll say, hey, look, if we got this, what would your terms be? I can kind of predict, based on what tax bracket you're in, what kind of return this building would be.
Yeah.
So
with your underwriting and what you've kind of learned, because I'm very much a numbers guy, so when you're talking that, I'm seeing that and processing real quickly with it. Is that something that a mentor or somebody taught you? Because I found a lot of the numbers that I use in residential and the way I analyze deals, nobody taught me. I just kind of like figured out my system that I was like, this is what everybody's saying is cool, but like I took it like 10 steps farther, and then I have my own little tricks where I'm like, yeah, roughly, like you were talking about, operating expenses are $7.50 a square foot. I do the same thing on, rehabs and other things. I know that on a product, I'm going to spend X amount of % on holding costs and all those kind of things. Was somebody there to teach you this, or is it something you've learned through trial and error that you've come to your own terms and been like, this is how I underwrite my own deals now?
Yeah, so no one actually taught me that. The numbers were something that that the firm I was working with before, they kept that pretty closely to their chest.
Trade secrets.
Exactly. I mean, they were, I can understand it. You look at commercial real estate and go, well, if I teach you how to do this, why are you going to keep working for me? You're going to go work for someone else, which is not ever hardly ever the case.
Right, because you treat people well and they stick around.
Exactly.
But if you treat people like they're disposable, then they are disposable.
Exactly, and that's unfortunately how I ended up getting treated. Was like, no. So the 42 townhomes that I developed, I was the lead on that project, but I wasn't involved in the financing at all. They didn't want me to learn how to finance a project,
or understand the rates, or how much,
how any of the negotiations go, what to look out for,
They wanted you to know your little part.
They wanted me to
piece.
Exactly. They wanted me to be able to find a deal and make sure it was a deal and to bring it to them.
And guys, I just want to remind you, if you do have questions for Tyler, go ahead and put them in the comments, and we'll get to them at the end.
Cool. So, in regards
so I taught myself.
Yeah. Okay. So you taught yourself. So with that being said, like, let's jump back to 2019 last year. Or is there like any specific transaction that sticks out that like you were applying your numbers, but there's a bunch of extra things that happened or unique things that you're like, man, I learned a ton with this deal that really stands out?
I mean, every deal you do, you learn.
Absolutely.
You learn. So we can talk about my deal at 4013 Travis Drive. I mean, that was at the time, it was the largest building that I'd acquired. It was 12,000 square feet, 2 stories.
How did you find it?
It was actually listed.
On the MLS.
It was on, so commercial doesn't use the MLS, but it was on, I think it was CoStar maybe, or it was either that or I had gotten a broker blast from another commercial real estate broker, but it was
just sitting there.
Exactly. It was just sitting there. It was an older building. It was built in the 70s, early 80s, and it had been sitting vacant for a number of years because the owner of the building had actually had his company in there. And when the owner passed away, the family sold the company and the buyers moved the company out. So the building just sat there vacant. And they didn't want to lease it back. They just wanted to sell it. So it took them a while to figure that out. And then they brought it to market at 1.3 million, which was a little over $100 a foot. So that's kind of how it came onto my radar. Was, oh, okay, this is close to $100 a foot. This is probably worth looking into. The more and more I underwrote the deal, I said, I think I offered them like $800,000 to start, and they said,
"There's got to be some negotiation." Right?
That's right. That's right.
Were they the only one that made an offer? If they went to that many people? Okay.
No, I've had people come back and we ended up paying $980 for it. Just last month we turned down an offer of $1.4 million for another guy that was actually competing with us. It was we were going back and forth, and it was like November. So commercial real estate, I'm sure it's very similar in residential, shuts down in the winter.
Fourth quarter and first quarter.
That's right.
I know.
It's like ghost town sometimes.
It's miserable. Yeah. So I mean, I know commercial real estate brokers that literally leave town for a month or 2 months. It's crazy. So I knew that nothing would likely happen between November and end of January. So I kind of waited on them and gave them a call back. It was still available, and I said, okay, look, I'll offer you $950. I think I'd come up from $850 to $950, and they countered at $980, which was $120,000 less than what we had just done 2 months ago. So I'm looking at it like I just made $120,000. I probably would have paid 1.1.
Dude, that's sweet. It's like they almost added just like the commission on there, like to net the $950.
Exactly. So, so I kind of let the deal set. I didn't want them to think,
you're excited. You're just kind of like, I'll think about it.
Man,
slow
so
play
hard
that.
to do.
Exactly. Yeah. So we kind of slow played it, and then I ended up just getting it under contract. and running with it.
Got it. So tell us a little bit. So you got under contract. Tell us a little bit about the contract terms. Like, did your terms have anything to do with you getting that price? Tell us about the terms of the contract and how you went through those contingencies.
Yeah, sure. So, in commercial real estate, it's pretty typical to have 60 or 90 days due diligence because there's significantly more
stuff to
involved.
check.
Right. So usually, I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
But usually during due diligence, you want to get all the financials. You want to talk to your bank. You want to, and also look at the condition of the property. Is there anything in addition to that?
I mean, just financing a loan can take 90 days.
Sure.
In commercial, I mean, it's a very, very different beast. But yeah, I mean, you want to, the bank will require you to do a survey, typically an Alta survey because they want to know exactly what you're buying. They want to do a phase one, which is probably not typical in residential, but they want to make sure that no chemicals or gas tanks are hitting on the property. So
what is a phase one exactly?
So phase one is an environmental report.
Oh, okay.
So geotechnical engineers will go out on site. They'll test the soils. They'll do scans, all these kinds of things to make sure. Because, if there's a gas tank on site, the EPA has to come out. You have to remediate all of that dirt. I mean, it's tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands.
They could have had a gas station there, tore that down, put a building out. You would have have to know, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
And it's kind of crazy how often that happens. Just a gas station that got covered up 60 years ago, and there's no record of it. And
So it sounds like due diligence is expensive with commercial.
it can be. I mean, we'll typically spend anywhere, especially, on attorney's fees, and if it's a syndication, even more so. I mean, we'll spend 10, 20, 30 grand.
Sure.
Which, it's just a cost of doing business on the commercial side.
Yeah.
If you don't close on the deal, you're not going to get the money back.
Is there $30,000 you spent on your education?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Then you have inspectors you got to go through. So, fortunately, I've looked at so many commercial buildings in my day, and, having a background in construction, we typically don't hire an inspector. My contractor will come out, and we'll walk it together. And if I have any concerns or anything else, I'll call that person specifically.
Sure.
So, this building was built, early 80s. I wanted to make sure that we had the right kind of electrical. Because if it's not copper wiring, it can be.
Yeah, you got to do it all. You can do it all again.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, you're also talking on commercial, you're talking about three-phase power then. So it's not,
Right.
it's significantly more expensive.
Yeah, so not every building is three-phase, but yes, I mean, those are all the kind of things you have to look out for, because if you've got to run three-phase power to the building, I mean, we had one deal where we leased to a tenant. The owner thought they had three-phase. The tenant didn't check. No three-phase power. Well, the tenant has all this heavy equipment.
They have to have it.
So they had to have a generator on site for 4 weeks while they were going through that process, and it cost,
Tons
I
of
think,
money.
over $10,000.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
So you got your surveys, you got your inspections. Now, did you have to renegotiate for it because of any of the results?
No, so that's one thing that I'm very intentional about. If I get something under contract, unless something substantial pops up, like completely changes the deal pops up,
Yeah.
I will not go back and retrade.
So is there a threshold? Like, let's just say you go do a scope of work and it's like, oh my God, dude, this roof I need to spend 30 grand on a roof. What is your threshold? Like, you're going to budget for some type of CapEx.
Right. I mean, that's, I try to really do that on the front end before I get anything under contract. Because again, I mean, it's actually become a part of my reputation. It's like, look, and I'll tell sellers this: if I get this under contract,
Like that's what you're getting.
You're
exactly,
already
like
70% there.
I'm already 70% there, and that I will not come back and retrade you. We will have a discussion about it, but I'm not going to say, hey, I'm dropping this contract unless you do this. We try to look at that. So how does the roof look? How old are the HVAC units? I want to know that before we get under contract.
And you're setting the expectation from the beginning, because at least I found in residential, if I can find someone that's reasonable and I can set that expectation from the beginning, 90% of the time, we don't have any problems.
Exactly.
But if they're unreasonable from the beginning and we can't even get to like reasonable terms,
Right.
it's like, cool, call me back when you actually want to sell and we'll go from there.
Yeah.
Exactly. And it also helps, commercial is so competitive. I mean, so is residential. It's so competitive in Nashville right now. For me to be able to walk in and tell these guys that, and, hey, you can call all these other guys that I bought properties from and ask them, not every buyer can say that. I mean, there are buyers out there that will intentionally go, yeah, I'll take your asking price. And then 3 months into it, after all the other buyers have walked away, they go, oh, you know what? I mean, $100,000 off.
Yeah.
And that's a terrible way to do business, in my opinion.
Yeah, we don't do business that way, and I haven't. Like, I tell people, I don't make offers unless I'm really interested, and if I am, my price. I bought a piece of property about a month and a half ago, and I found out after the fact that I have an extra $50,000 worth of infrastructure stuff. It's a multi-build. But I took it on the chin because, like, no, I told these people I paid out. That's my learning fault. Like, I should have known that on the front end.
Yeah.
I should do my due diligence better. And the number's still penciled out, so I'm not going to go back and haggle with somebody over my mistake ultimately. So, yeah, I get it.
Exactly. And stuff pops up. You know, I mean, I made sure that we had enough contingency in my construction budget, and then the numbers still worked.
For sure.
And it's a good thing I did. I mean, we got in there 3-4 weeks after owning the building, one of the water heaters blew out. Well, some genius decided to put the water heaters in the ceiling above the drop tile instead of putting it, so water was everywhere, water damage everywhere. So I mean, we had to spend $5 or $6 grand on just
fixing water damage. Yeah.
So you have a 90-day due diligence period. How long after you satisfy that contingency do you have to close?
Typically 30 days.
Okay, so it's 91-20.
But you've probably underwritten, I would assume, a good 50-60% of the underwriting process is pretty far at that point. I'm hoping.
That's right. I mean, I will not. We try to get all of our underwriting and everything done during the due diligence period.
And does your lender order the appraisal? Are you looking at multiple lenders, or do you have your lender locked in?
No, absolutely. Multiple lenders. We have to. I have a handful of lenders that I trust that we've worked with in the past that get almost all my business. It's very difficult for a new bank to come and convince me to work with them because that's such a relationship game. I mean, bankers
tons of money.
And banks are your partners. That's what a lot of people don't think about when they look at a bank. They're like, oh, it's just a bank. No, they're your partner. They're literally taking a chance on you, and your banker will go to bat for you if you have a good enough relationship.
Yeah, sure.
And if you do the same for them.
Could we unpack that a little bit?
Sure.
Like, let's just say about the lending piece of it. I mean, you don't have to tell us your exact terms, but like most people think, okay, well, I got to put 25% down. So what does that loan look like? It doesn't have to be your exact loan, but what is basically?
I'll tell you kind of what we generally go for.
Sure.
I mean, we'll put a term sheet together and we'll give that to the banks and go, look, here's the deal. Here are the partners that will be personally guaranteeing this loan, and here are the terms we would like to see. And we'll send that to 3 banks that I believe this deal is a good fit for. Now, not every deal is a good fit for every bank, right? I mean, commercial, there's so many different types of commercial. I'm sure you guys see the same thing. Like a condo, somebody who's going to win on a condo may not necessarily be the same person that's going to win on a 5,000 square foot row house. You know what I mean? So we'll take it to them and just say, hey, look, we want based on our balance sheets and based on our willingness to guarantee this, I want to see a 25-year amortization with 20% down and a 4% interest on a 10-year term.
So you never ask the lender, you're telling them what you want.
Oh, absolutely.
You start with
it's a piece of negotiation,
sure.
Right? Because you set the anchor. So, I mean, that's something that I always try to be the first person to make the first offer because it's just psychologically for them to then look at that and then counter back at what they would have started off with. It's more difficult for them to get all the way there because then they'll go, okay, well, we've got to try and
right because they know that you're talking to other people.
Exactly.
It's like, guys, you got to be competitive because if you're not even close, we won't waste each other's time.
That's right. And it's, again, it's not a transactional thing. I mean, we'll go with someone that may have a bit of a higher interest rate if we feel, if it just depends on some of the other terms of the deal. Right. I think on that one, we ended up with it was a pretty interesting deal. I think it was 5 1/4, which, now we're doing deals of 4%. It shows you how much
the market
interest rates have changed. It was a 20-year amortization with a 7-year term.
Okay.
No, it was a 5-year term that automatically renews 3 more times. So if we didn't want to change that loan, we could keep it for 20 years.
Like you have 2
but
options.
It's an arm, so it will adjust every 5 years after
based
the
on what prime is or something.
So you got the loan in place. So that leaves you with a 20% down payment on $1 million. That's $200,000. Do you already know that like I got $200,000 at the bank? How does that down payment come into play? How do you find the funds for that? Do you find it yourself? How does that work?
Yeah, I think at the time I might have had like $10,000 in the bank.
Fair enough.
So definitely did not have 200. So yeah, this was actually my first syndication too. So we can talk about syndicating deals and all that kind of stuff as well.
So what is a syndication for everybody who doesn't know?
Yeah, so a syndication is basically it's regulated by the SEC. So it is technically a security where I take a commercial real estate deal and it's basically an offering. So there's a ton of regulation under that. But basically it's hey, we're selling 70% equity in this deal for, an anticipated X return. Depending on what there's two different kinds of syndications. One where anybody can invest and one where only accredited investors can invest. And
accredited means somebody who normally makes over
$250 a year or $1 million in assets.
Yeah.
So I can't remember which one. We did the one where everybody had to be accredited.
Is there now? Why does that matter? Well, not why does that matter, but how do you determine that investor pool?
So it just depends on how you want to market it. If you want to be able to actually market a security, you have to accept only accredited investors. If you're willing to not market it, I don't really know all the intricacies of these. If you don't have to market it, you can take a certain percentage of investors that are not accredited,
right?
Just because of their relationship.
Basically, if you're trying to raise money from friends and family or something like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So how did this particular deal pan out for that piece of it? How many investors, whatever you want to tell?
Yeah, so we actually have 6 investors, 7 including myself. So we did a GP LP split. It's public record. So the GP took 30% of the deal and we sold 70%. So we, as the GP, invest the minimum as well into our limited. So GP is general partnership. Those are the people that are putting the deal together and running it. And then the LP is the limited partners. Those are the people that are just investing cash. They don't really have a say in what's going on.
No manager rights. Basically.
That's right. So we, as the GP, invest the minimum asking into our LP as well.
Yeah, so the LPs feel like that you have as much skin in the game as they do.
Oh, absolutely.
So you can't just walk away and then...
But I've also know with GP and LP, sometimes in the GP situation, like a sponsor, somebody who does the deal, instead of taking their, let's say their sponsor fee, I've also seen sponsors then take their money as the contribution.
That's right.
So there's so many different ways to structure that.
So the sponsor fee is basically like the payment for doing the work.
It's like a wholesale fee, basically.
And putting it together, right? Sometimes you roll that in.
My partner and I actually ended up putting so much money. Because the more months it pressed on after we had gotten it under contract, the better of a deal it looked. And so we actually ended up putting over 50% of the capital in.
Yeah.
Ourselves, which, of course, our investors love that.
So looking at something like that, you've got all these investors, right? Is it part of your 5-10 year strategy to buy them, to cash out and get them out of the deal? So it's just they get paid back and then you get to keep the deal free and clear, 50-50 partner? Or do you try to keep them in? Do you try to move them to other deals? What is just a little brief?
Yeah, kind of how we set that up.
Sure.
So it completely depends on the deal. So this one, since it was our first office syndication, my partner had done, 2,800 multifamily units. But it was his first office syndication. And so we decided to kind of give our investors a sweetheart deal. We don't really do this anymore, but we
try to make it worth it.
Yeah, we were trying to make it worth it. So we actually offered them, we have a 3-year plan where we get in, renovate the property, lease it up, stabilize it, refinance it, return everybody's cash, and then they maintain their equity in it. So not only have they gotten a significant return on their capital, they've gotten all their capital back, and they still own the equity of the building.
Oh, wow.
So that's in perpetuity. So basically after that, it's infinite cash flow for the investors.
Yeah, they have all their money back.
Have all their money back. They've already got a return as well. And then, the intent was, hey, look, you guys are taking a chance on us. This is our first office syndication. We're going to reward you guys in the hopes that 3 years from now, when we have a major capital event, you guys get all that money and go, here you go. Go find us another one.
Rinse and repeat. Let's do this again, guys.
Exactly.
So
which we've got investors lined up to do that now.
That's awesome, man. So you're looking for your investors. So when you're looking at this deal, do you have multiple exit strategies? What were the exit strategies that you shopped to these investors?
Absolutely. So I really, 27, I really want to play buy and hold.
Just park money for a while.
Exactly, because I've got a property management company and brokerage, so I don't need that money to live off of. Exactly, I don't need that money. I don't need that equity right now. But 30 years from now, I'll be super happy that we did it this way, because I can't tell you how many older investors I've met that go, damn, I wish I
I can't believe I
that.
sold that.
Yeah, my grandfather back in the 80s built more duplexes in Woodbine than anyone. I mean, they were like 1,102 square feet, duplexes, one single story brick. And, he sold them all because, I mean, at the time, there's no way you could have ever said Woodbine would be good.
Yeah.
Not a chance. And, now he's like, I wish I kept all those.
He'd have millions and millions. Yeah, for sure.
Exactly. I mean, you think about what he'd be sitting on.
So you're looking to do buy and hold. Is that the only exit strategy? But
Yeah. So the plan A is a refinance.
Okay.
So we go in. We bought the building for $980. We're putting $230,000 worth of work into it. So we're all in under about 1.3.
Sure.
Let's call it. The building based off of a cap rate, which is the beautiful thing about commercial real estate. We don't base it off of comps. You base it off of the cash flow. Is going to be worth over $2.3 million once it's stabilized. So we'll pull out 80%, 70% of our cash, return all the investors' money back plus some, and then we'll just cash flow.
So you get in there and you've got $200-something thousand worth of work. Does a LP fund that also, or do you need to come up with those funds? How does that work?
So we just loop the construction loan in with our acquisition loan.
Got it.
It's all one purchase.
That's right. So we ended up putting about $400,000 or $450,000 into this deal. Ourselves and the investors' money, and for a $1.3 million.
So you bought well over 20%. You're like
20% plus the funds for the construction.
That's right. Yeah, 20% plus funds for construction. And then you also have closing costs and some other things. You always raise more than what you actually need.
Right.
I mean,
because you have working capital anyway for the first year.
Exactly.
Cover utilities
operating
and stuff.
expenses and things like that. Yeah. So I think we ended up raising probably 26-27% when we only had a 20% down payment.
That's nice.
Nice.
Okay, so you got it locked up. You have your exit strategies, and you decided to. So tell us what it was like after you closed. What was the plan? You had to get them leased. What was that plan?
Absolutely. So that's the nice thing about having a brokerage is that I've got a team where I say, hey, go out and make this happen. So before we actually closed on the building, I had a tenant that had already signed a lease for one space, which proved to me, hey, we're asking the right rate. This building looked like somebody renovated it in 1985, walked the doors and left. It had that nice, thick, plush, green-blue carpet. It had that green-blue wainscoting. I mean, it's just like, it looked like my grandparents' house when I was a little kid. I'm not even kidding. So we got in, fully renovated it, redid all the flooring, redid painting, added some walls, and created new suites. So the way that the building was laid out, 5 suites downstairs were perfect for a triple net style lease where the tenants pay for their share of common area maintenance, taxes, insurance, and utilities. These are single suites with a private entrance.
So you're saying a triple net lease, the tenant actually pays for taxes, insurance, common area maintenance, which could be whatever you want it to be, and utilities.
That's right.
So you net 100% of the
That's right. So it's $16 a foot
okay.
plus the triple net. So that $16 a foot minus commissions is actually what we make, which makes it super easy to underwrite deals. And the reason that you separate those is because your common area maintenance may go up. Your taxes may go up. Yeah. That stuff kind of fluctuates.
And they're running a business.
And it would be a real pain to try to always be factoring in, like, what's it going to be a inflation on cleaning fees or whatever.
Sure.
Exactly. So on the upstairs, we actually did a full service lease, which is where we are handling 100% of everything. We pay the utilities, we pay common area maintenance, we pay janitorial.
What is the deciding factor in that? Why do you do that versus triple net?
So upstairs has common area, like hallways, restrooms, and a kitchen and a conference room. So they all 11 tenants up there share all of that.
Yeah.
Right.
There's
like
one
a
meter.
Or something.
That's right. That's right. Well, so we did executive office suites. So think of it like a Regis or WeWork.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really make sense for a tenant to handle that outside of what they're doing. Right. And then there's also 1 meter for upstairs.
Yeah.
So there's one utility meter.
Yeah.
This is way high maintenance to try to.
It's easier for us to just collect one lump sum and then pay the bills than it is to collect one lump sum.
And of course, you're going to add a little bit to the whatever would be, I'm assuming, to kind of cushion a little bit of it.
Exactly.
Well, you have your management time in it.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, yeah. So I've got a management company, and so what we did was, okay, well, we want to net $16 a foot. Okay, well, we know, the average operating expenses for commercial buildings is, in Nashville is $7.50 a foot. Well, this building doesn't have an elevator. It doesn't have a lot of the other things that the average office building has per the IREM, which is the Institute of Real Estate Management Standards. So I knew that our expenses are actually going to be way lower than that. I just went ahead and added that $7.50 onto the price per square foot and came up $23.50. Well, that's market rates for Class C product, not nice product. And keep in mind, we're delivering 200 square foot, one-person office suites that have been fully renovated at $23.50 a foot. So people are getting in there for $400 a month. They have their own private office. And so that's why it just completely took off. We're about 6 months ahead of lease up right now.
So this is an office building.
That's right.
So do tenants have the option to do their own build outs to suit their business?
So the tenants on the ground floor do. Upstairs, most of these tenants they just want to bring in a desk and get started.
They're an entrepreneur or business owner or something.
Sure.
Exactly. They don't really want to come in here and do a build out, but
so
if they want to paint, then they're welcome to paint.
Yeah. So who is responsible for the cost of the build out? Like, obviously, if you have to do the build out when they go to have a new tenant, all that stuff has to go away to the shell. Who's responsible for that?
Well, so these are pretty much moving. I mean, it's just like this office that we're in right now. So as long as they don't damage the carpet, which security deposit covers, as long as they don't mess up the walls, security deposit covers that.
Sure.
Then we're good to go. And in the lease, it does say they have to return it to us in similar condition as to when they accepted it.
It's like a normal residential lease.
Exactly. So we're not having to turn it over significantly. So we just went ahead and fully renovated the upstairs to make it as easy as possible for these tenants to just move in.
Yeah.
I literally tell people that I'm touring, all you need to do is bring a desk. We actually provide Wi-Fi for you as well, so it's super easy.
Turnkey, just show up and start working.
Exactly.
Yeah, and then the turnover is easy too because there's probably a higher demand. If somebody's out, you're in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're working on the refi. You're getting it fully leased, and now you just basically you collect the checks, and your next step is just keeping up with everything and waiting for your 5-year term on your loan to mature.
Yeah, so we're actually we'll refinance before the 5-year.
Okay.
So as soon as the building is stabilized, we're refinancing it. So as soon as we get it to probably 90% occupancy, we'll pull that trigger. We were anticipating it to be between 18 and 24 months. And like I said, we're about 6 months ahead of that lease up right now. So it'll probably be much sooner, which we love because, we underwrote it for a 3-year. So if we're able to do it 12 months sooner, our investors' internal rate of return skyrockets.
Right.
It takes a whole year off.
So how many? I mean, is it common for the investors just to keep their money into something like, okay, I got cashed out. Tyler, where's the next deal? Here, I have this money. Find me something else.
Yeah. So most investors do. I mean, they'll the majority of what people do is they'll take the return on their investment. And they'll keep that, and then they'll keep snowballing that cash, the principal. Yeah. So,
Gotcha.
so you give me $100,000, we return you, let's say, $50,000. So they'll keep the 50, and then they'll keep
50%
the
return.
100. Yeah, they'll keep the 100 rolling.
Keep it rolling. Yeah. Okay.
Because why not?
Yeah.
And sometimes people will just keep it all rolling because it's like we've got
They
some guys.
forget about the money and they're like, just keep it.
Just keep it, and it's more.
Just keep it growing.
It's
Well, yeah, because we've got some investors in this deal actually they're invested through a self-directed IRA. So they don't, what are they going to do with that money?
No.
They go, okay, well that's great. You turn my 50 into 100,000 or 50 into 75,000. Like, let's roll in the next deal. I can't do anything with it.
Yeah, I can't touch it till I'm 59.
Exactly.
Anyway, so it's like, please move.
Please keep that turn. Yeah.
So, am I correct to say, just by hearing this, I mean, you're buying it, you're building in the equity, you're refinancing, you're cashing out. Almost sounds like a residential term is the BRRRR method.
Yes, absolutely. So it is a commercial BRRRR.
So can you explain to everybody, like, what does BRRRR stand for?
Yep.
Basically, what is that?
Yeah, so I actually learned about the BRRRR on Bigger Pockets. It's BRRRR. So buy, rehab, rent, refinance, and repeat. So, which is exactly what we did. We bought the building. We immediately rehabbed it.
Right.
We're now in the renting process. Then once we refinance it, you get all of your cash. I mean, the beauty of a refinance is it's technically a loan, so you don't get taxed on that income. So when I pull out, if I put in $450,000, and we refinance it and pull out $800,000, that $800,000 does not get taxed.
Correct.
It's not taxable.
Yeah.
It's a refinance. So we can take that $800,000, basically free money, and go put that into another deal.
Right.
So repeat.
Nice, man. That's amazing.
It's a game changer.
It really is. I mean, real estate's the best investment vehicle.
I can't see from here. David, are there any questions if you want to scroll? Guys, now's a really good time to throw your questions in.
What's going on, Scott? How you doing, man?
Scott. So guys, like we're here with Tyler Cauble from the Cauble Group, excuse me.
So
Tyler, do you want to tell everybody how to get a hold of you, by the way, if they're looking to? So Tyler, I'm pretty sure will help you look at a deal.
Yeah.
If you don't know what to do with your deal, commercial deals, you call Tyler. So how can people get a hold of you?
Happy to do it. So Instagram is really the easiest. It's commercial_in_Nashville. You can probably also just type in my last name, which is kind of weird, and that should pop up. Cauble, Cauble.
Okay, and they can call you. Whatever.
Yeah, I mean, my
email.
cell phone number is very easy to find. So if you want that, shoot me a text.
Cool.
And then my email is just tyler@thecaublegroup.com.
Nice, man. Pretty easy enough.
We do have,
buddy.
we got a few questions. We'll start with the first one.
Okay.
It was up here. It was by our buddy Devon.
Oh yeah, what's Devon?
Let's see. What is a good contingency number for unexpected cap expenses, surprises, residential or commercial?
Well, I typically do 10 to 15%. So, I think that we had anticipated about $200,000 worth of work, and then I think we did that in 50%. We took a $230,000 construction loan.
That's a really good question,
Yeah.
Devon.
So
Yeah,
for those
right.
that don't understand, basically he's just asking, what is the contingency factor when we're doing a rehab that we're adding extra cushion for the unknowns, the by the ways that always
The
happen?
water heater that's in the
Yeah.
ceiling blows out.
Because I've learned two things in real estate. It always takes longer and it always costs more. Always.
Awesome, man. Thanks,
Cool.
Devon, for that question, brother.
Yeah.
Appreciate you.
One more looks like. Oh wait, no, we got two more questions. Tyler, what was the expected internal rate of return for investors at the beginning of the deal when you had the 18 to 20 month lease up timeline?
So we underwrote it to an 18% IRR, which is great.
Would you say IRR? What does that
IRR,
stand
internal rate of return.
for? Got it.
So that's so there's cash on cash, which is really how I like to look at things. But you also have to consider your internal rate of return.
Factoring in appreciation.
That's
and
right.
things like that.
Well, and over time.
Yeah.
Right, because if I say, hey, I'm going to get you a 10% return on your money, but it takes me 5 years, that's worth significantly less than 10% return on your money in 1 year, just because of the time value of money. So essentially, if you say, hey, it's a 20% return in year one, it would 20% IRR in year one, it would be a 10% IRR in year two for the same amount of cash because you're having that the amount of time.
Cool.
So we underwrote this one at 18%. The minimum that we'll underwrite is a 15%. On a development deal, we typically do 25% just because it's riskier.
Yeah, there's way more unknown factors, and
Awesome.
you're probably going to spend way more money in other regards.
Yes.
All right, what is Michael Mees saying right there? What's up, Michael?
That was Michael's question.
Oh, awesome, Michael. Hope that helped, Mike.
And
Let us
then
know if you need any more clarification.
Scott Sims Sanders.
What's up, Scott?
First 2 or 3 crucial steps you would recommend to an agent who wants to enter into the commercial real estate field, coming from residential,
All right.
asking for a friend, or maybe not.
So what I would recommend,
And learning resource he added.
and learning resources. So, I see too many residential agents try to do both. And in my opinion, that's a horrible way of going about it.
Jack of all trades, master of none.
Exactly. So my team, we
That's all
will
you do.
not do residential. We refer that out. I won't even let them do multifamily. And then there's some other things, like land. Like we won't do land because again, if we're not going to be the best at it, why are we even wasting our time?
It's a time suck. If you got to become an expert, otherwise you get mediocre results regardless.
Exactly. I mean, and I know sitting across the table from a residential agent on a commercial deal, I have all the cards in my pocket. They have not. It'd be the same as if I was trying to help someone buy a house. I mean, you guys have so many forms and disclosures and stuff like that you don't have to do in commercial real estate. I would get myself sued so fast.
It's easy just to buy off the market.
Yeah, exactly.
So what I'm really hearing is it's kind of like a decision. Do you have to just decide do you want to do
You have to do it.
commercial?
Yeah.
And then just like you're a new agent, you find a mentor, you find a good broker, and you learn and
That's literally it. I mean, most commercial real estate agents, brokers, developers, investors, whatever, they'll tell you it takes 3 to 5 years before you start really doing anything in commercial, and you have to take that leap. It took me, when I got into it, it was literally 3 years. Made 40 grand my first year, 40 grand my second year, tripled that my third year. Which, that's almost the opposite. Like in residential, you can come out and if you're a badass, you can make 6 figures your first year.
You can, but you can also, like, my first year and a half, I didn't make much of that.
Right.
I mean, like, it was kind of like this, nothing, woo, here we go. So it's give or take,
Exactly. Then, commercial on the back end, you're working on significantly bigger deals. I mean, we're working on an $11 million
6-figure paychecks all the time.
Yeah, common. So it's very different.
Does that answer your question, Scott? Hopefully, feel free to reach out to us if you have any want to add to that.
Yeah, definitely add reserves. I see someone. Learning resources.
Learning resources.
I would. You can go get your CCIM. You don't have to be a commercial real estate agent to do that.
What is your CCIM?
CCIM is a certified commercial investment member. It's basically the highest designation that you can get as a commercial real estate agent.
How do you do that?
So it's like your CPA for accounting.
Go to your board or whatever.
No, you actually go directly to CCIM.
Got it. Okay, cool.
So there's, I think, 4 classes. It'll probably cost you 20 to 30 grand to get it done.
Are there
it's worth it.
Books or anything that people could at least start like looking at? I mean, obviously you have your book.
Yeah, my book, that'll just teach you about how to lease commercial real estate. So not necessarily the
What's the name of that book?
Open for Business, The Insider's Guide to Leasing Commercial Real Estate. You get that on Amazon. I would say it's tough. There's not a whole lot of resources out there for commercial real estate. It's best to, you got to mentor under
very
someone.
niche, fog and mirrors. Like when people start talking about it, you're like, I don't.
It's so different. It's so different. I would just say find someone that does commercial real estate that is actually successful at it, and ask them to mentor you for 3 years. I mean, that's essentially what I did. I had to go work somewhere for 4.5 before I could go off and do it on my own. You have to start off under someone because the contacts are different. In residential, people buy their names, their houses in their names. Commercial real estate, it's under some LLC that's owned by an S corp. That's you finally get to that, and it's an attorney somewhere that says
address is here, and address goes to here, and another state here, another state.
Exactly.
You're never gonna track.
And on that note, just like finding any mentor in any business, I mean, you have to bring but you have to bring value to your mentor also. Like, what are you gonna do? What are you going to do? What kind of grunt work? Well, what could you bring to the table for that person? Because that person's going to spend time talking to you, mentoring you. Their time is very valuable. So what are you going to do to help them succeed at their business while they're helping you try to succeed at yours?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I'm willing to teach anybody anything if they're going to come work for me for free or close to it.
Yeah.
Because, look, I'm much better at teaching by showing you how it's done than I'm going to just sit down and
that's just hours. Just hours. Yeah.
Well,
exactly.
And I learned a long time ago, if you want to make money, like make other people money.
Yeah.
If you I have this all the time. People come up to me like, hey, I want to learn this or hey, I want to do this. I'm sure y'all have this question all the time. I'm like, do you really want to do it? Because like, if I tell you my story, I bled for a long time before I was really making any money. And I'm like, if you want to learn how I did this, then you got to be willing to bleed a little bit. And if you're not willing to bleed, then you don't really want to do this.
No, I mean, and everybody tries to, social media is the bane of our existence. I mean, I take advantage of it and I love it, but everybody tries to act like they're actually doing a significant amount of business when they're not.
Right.
They try to hide the fact that, real estate looks like it's so glamorous when, no, I mean, people lose money and don't make money all the time. All the time.
I was talking with a buddy just a few days ago. He's telling me how he's going to lose 120 grand.
That's a
and I was like,
I had a deal that went wrong with a partner earlier this year. He actually, he's probably going to get indicted for, federally for fraud and a number of other things. But he left us carrying the loan by ourselves.
No.
And that was a significant portion of what his responsibility was in the loan. And so now we're going from, what I thought was we had 24 months of interest carry. We only had 24 months of interest only.
Now you're trying to do like capital raise.
So now I'm having to come out of pocket $3,800 a month to carry this property. And that sounds a lot of money.
Like a familiar story.
Yeah.
Any other questions on there, Dave? We're going to wrap this up, guys. You've got like 60 seconds to throw your questions in there.
Hey, Gina, what's going on?
What's up, Gina? Preach.
Switch is being considered. Nope, doesn't look like we have any other questions.
Cool, guys. Well, Tyler.
Scott, give me a call if you have any other questions. Happy to help you out, man.
Dude, Tyler, man, thanks for your time hanging out with us, man.
Absolutely.
This was
That was
so
fun.
fun. This was great, man. This
Yeah.
is great. You can go look at our other episodes on Deal Shares. You can find us on Anchor, Spotify, all of the platforms that you watch podcasts. We're on Instagram. We have our Facebook. So feel free to reach out. Dave and I and Tyler are all happy to help analyze your deals. So send your deals to dealshredders@gmail.com. Reach out to me. Reach out to David. We're pretty easy to get a hold of. And
Yep.
Guys, I think this wraps up episode 6 with Tyler Cauble.
There we go.
Thanks again,
Thanks,
brother.
guys.
It was
Happy New Year, y'all.
wonderful.
See y'all later, guys.
All right.